Hello on a whim listeners, and welcome to season 3's episode 4 of the On a Whim podcast. It's great to be back. We had a great episode last week. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. I hope you gave that at least 5 stars out of 5, 10 out of 10. 7.3, too much Grover talking about Final Fantasy.
Yeah, Paul, what did you do in the last week? It's been a pretty eventful week, right? Of all the stuff that's happened.
So many things have happened this past week.
Yeah.
Listener, I'm using my crystal ball to think of, the probable Ukrainian invasion by Russia.
That crazy storm that happened. Oh man, messed up my car tires.
Again?
That was thousands of dollars in repairs. It was insane.
You can't afford that. Like,
I know.
Where do you get the money from?
It all goes to the studio, so I had to take out a loan. It was just holy crap.
Okay, first of all, that's a lie, because I never envisioned Grover taking out a loan out. Yeah. Unless it's for, like, buying a house. Like, first of all, that's a damn
Chipotle.
lie.
Or Chipotle.
You invested in and then second of all, I would never see Grover spending that much money. He'd like piecemeal it and go to the ghetto and get a better price. Like he'd shop it around. Like so right there.
I just drive on rims.
I can see that. I can see you doing that.
It has been one heck of a week, right? Because this is what's today? Let's see.
Today.
Oh, it's the 1st of March.
It's the Ides of March.
Happy March, everybody.
Happy March. Stupid March weather.
My brother's
Oh, happy birthday, Jabari's brother, if you're listening.
And you're sitting here recording a podcast instead of calling him. What kind of brother are you?
The best brother, because I don't even call my brothers on their birthdays. So what did that tell you? Yeah, it's good to be back. I loved last episode where we just pretty much let Grover run wild in the secondary with no adult supervision.
I got all the Final Fantasy out of my system. And then we talked about Final Fantasy.
Yeah, that was a very Grover heavy episode, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Even Jabari got some knocks in there with League and stuff like that, and the get good son mentality. It was a good all around episode. I hope the listener gave it 5 stars because we forgot to include that last episode. So 5 stars, listener, please. Maybe
we were too busy talking about chaos.
Chaos. This is amazing, guys. So this past week, right? We've been seeing, and the last couple of weeks actually, we've been seeing a lot of big changes coming from Big N, Nintendo in this case, right?
Yeah.
And I know both Grover and Jabari are just chock full of opinions on this, and it's the eShop closing down. So I don't know which one of you two are itching. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Which one of you two are itching at the bit to talk about this? So I'm going to lay down the gauntlet.
I'll do it.
Grover, walk us through this.
Grover's going to do it.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
All night long. All night. All night.
The thing is, I don't want Jabari to talk bad about Nintendo because that he wants to work there someday, and so I'll do it. I will do it for him. I will take the heat. No, but seriously speaking, Nintendo, is one of my favorite game companies. I have every Nintendo system except the Virtual Boy, all the way back to the original NES. So I am a diehard Nintendo fan, and I'm also an enthusiast for getting software legally, right? You can pirate or emulate or whatever. If you want to do that, more power to you. But for me, it's like I always try to get the game legally if I can, unless it's like very, very impossible for me to do that. And with a couple weeks ago, Nintendo, they didn't plan it. They probably planned it behind the scenes, but they just came out with an announcement saying, "Hey, in May, we're shutting down the ability to purchase new games with a credit card. I think sometime in August they're shutting down the ability to add funds with the eShop cards, right? For the 3DS and the Wii U. And in next March of 2023, you will not be able to purchase new games at all on the Wii U or the 3DS store. And they even I could get the exact quote if you give me some time, but they even had a thing in their Q&A that they deleted due to the backlash that said, doesn't Nintendo have an obligation to keep old library old titles on this library? And
spoiler alert, they don't.
well, yeah, but they came up with this very boilerplate answer. There's 130 titles on the Nintendo Switch Online, and we hope you like our offerings and blah blah blah. But it is very much we're shutting our games down, and there's no way to buy it or to do it legally.
Which is quite the opposite of that gamer first mentality we were talking about last week, from Square Enix, right? So
yeah.
Continue, please. I'm enjoying this.
I'm trying to get a list of titles. If you just give me a couple of seconds here, but there's some stats here. If my browser would just load up just a little bit faster. Let's see. Up to 1,000. This is from VideoGamesChronicle.com. Up to 1,000 digital-only titles will no longer be available for purchase when Nintendo closes the Wii U and 3DS eShop stores next year. That comes down to 450 digital-only Wii U games, 600 digital-only 3DS games, about 100 Wii U games that are also available physically that you'd have to pay out the bum to get, a copy of these days, about 300 3DS games that are available physically, and nearly 530 virtual console games. 350 of those 530 are not available on the Nintendo Switch. So it's a very sizable amount of games that are not going to be available when the shutdown occurs as of now, right? And it's terrible. It just really makes me upset. I'm actually going to be spending a good portion of my next few paychecks booting up my old Wii U, going through and buying a bunch of titles that aren't available on the Switch that we don't know of, because I haven't had a chance to play them, and I want to play them eventually. But and the thing is, Nintendo can do this on the Switch if they wanted to, and for some reason they don't want to. And then when people are pirating or they suggest ROMs or things like that, then they come down with the cease and desist, right? But at what point do you come down with? At what point do you you can't? Well, you can, but you shouldn't be banning access to your legacy titles if there's no current way to play them. And that's my biggest gripe with the thing. I get that the Wii U didn't sell well. I get that the 3DS has been out for 11 years. But when you have a new console out, right? There should be a better method to play your legacy titles than what's come before. And I think Xbox has done this very well with their Xbox Game Pass. And I've gone on record in the past. You look at my Facebook or tweets from 10 years ago, and I just crap all over Microsoft on how bad they are at their E3 conferences and whatnot. But they're so good now, because with the Xbox Game Pass, it's like, okay, you can subscribe to this, play these games if you really like it, or you just want to, just play it for the moment it's on the Game Pass. But there's still an option to buy it permanently. There's still an option to have a permanent digital license to the software. And with Nintendo, it's either one or the other. You're just either, buying their current games on the Switch, or you're subscribed to their Nintendo Switch Online for their legacy offerings, or companies like Capcom or Square Enix, right? They're releasing collections of the games that are not on Nintendo Switch Online, but not endorsed by Nintendo, right? They're not supported by Nintendo on their services. It's just more of here's the Switch port of this game collection, right? So that's my thoughts on it. I didn't mean to take over this topic, but
I mean, you did last week,
really,
so what you did is we need different.
I didn't mean for this to become the Grover ranting show, but what are your thoughts on this, guys?
So real quick, before I give the floor to Jabari, because I know he's got his talking points as the Nintendo fanboy he is.
Yeah.
I feel that every great empire, dynasty, whatever you want to call it, right, has a blunder, right?
Yeah.
Napoleon Bonaparte's blunder was marching headfirst into Russia, and
everybody seems to do that, don't they? Huh?
It's just something that repeats in history. I don't know why.
It's important to study history, friends.
History repeats itself, y'all.
Yeah.
And every great empire dynasty has that one moment. And as I open the floodgates for Jabari, I feel this is going to be Nintendo's moment. That this is a misstep. This is either it's calculated and they're going to be geniuses and I will have egg on my face and I'll wear it with pride. But I think this is that moment. This is that watershed moment.
I don't know what's going to be more calculated, Nintendo's downfall or Jabari's response to this question, because
and go.
I mean, shoot, my response might surprise you guys. Like, when I heard about the announcement for it, like, I was like, oh, this is no surprise at all.
Yeah.
I feel like this is just, it was bound, it's bound to happen. Like, it happens all the time, the network is going to shut down. It's just a matter of when. For the DS, for the 3DS, it took, 11 years or so?
Yeah.
And for the Wii U, I already knew that was going to happen sooner than later. But yeah, it's freaking crazy. Yeah. To be able to lose access to those games if you haven't purchased it yet, it is absolutely just crazy. But at this point, how long both of these systems have been out, it's either you bought the game or not, because I feel like Nintendo right now is they've been debating this for a while, when they should close this down, and it's probably come to the point where it costs too much now to keep up this server, these stores, to actually to make a profit with these games and such. So I think that's kind of what's happening right now. Because they have to have dedicated people to focusing on these servers, right? Keeping them up and going, and making sure that everything's updated and going smoothly, right? So I think they are moving on, or they definitely are moving on. And that, to me, this leads me to believe that they're just about ready to move on to their next system that's even bigger than the Nintendo Switch.
So
I know.
Oh, go ahead.
Go for it.
So one unintended consequence of all of this is the Pokemon franchise, right? The reason why I mentioned that is that Pokemon people will be unable to download Pokemon Bank, and Pokemon Bank was one of the ways that you would transfer your Pokemon from the DS and 3DS generation onto the Nintendo Switch. And there's a sizable amount of Pokemon that are unobtainable on the Switch that you can only catch through the DS and 3DS games, right? And so when this shutdown happens, there will be no way to get anything below, I want to say, Generation 8. I think that's when they started going on. So anything before Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee is going to be forever locked out. Now they've said as of this recording that Bank is going to be online for free and indefinitely, but it's going to be locked out to newer players, right? So for players like me or somebody else in the studio like Matt or something, where okay, we haven't moved our Pokemon from the 3DS, we still have time, we'll still be able to do it, but somebody who's be like, oh wow, I really want to go back and play Pokemon Crystal on the the 3DS and transfer that up through the bank, they won't be able to do it, right? Because they won't even be able to purchase Pokemon Crystal.
See, but I think that's just one of those suck it up, Buttercup. This is what we're doing. Get in, loser. We're gonna go make some games.
But here's the thing: Nintendo Switch is powerful enough to be able to emulate these games. They can absolutely put all the Game Boy games. They can. If I was in Nintendo situation going the way they are right now, right? They have the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pass with the N64, right? And I personally think that it's a ripoff. I wouldn't pay for $49.99 a year for a couple of N64 games. But I would pay it if it included the whole Game Boy library that they had on the 3DS, right? Mm-hmm. If they had the Super Nintendo library that they had on the DS library, and the Nintendo Switch could run all of this, but for whatever reason they don't want to do that. But it would make that Nintendo Switch offering, that NSO expansion pack offering, a lot more worthwhile if they had included this rather than just having drip feeding a bunch of N64 titles that, once every 3 months or something. I just don't feel like their priorities are in the right spot. And suck it up, Buttercup, or whatever you were saying. It doesn't make sense.
Get in, loser. We're gonna make games.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me when Xbox is going all in and they're acquiring these big companies to bolster up their Game Pass, whereas Nintendo, they're just doing whatever they want, and they need a humbling moment, is what I'm saying.
But this is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
In every great dynasty, there is that moment, right?
Yeah.
And I think Jabari, I don't want to side with Jabari, but at the same time, he makes a valid point.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of nerds in this back room cabinet, wherever you want to call it, that have crunched the numbers, and they have determined that it's more cost effective to shut this down than it is to keep it up. I understand that from a business standpoint, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, there was a Nintendo insider that I guess has since left Nintendo that said that they were waiting for that because I think there's some European digital laws that when you release something digitally, you have to have it up for 10 years. Otherwise, you're subject to a lot of lawsuits. Sure. you're not able to do it. So Nintendo was waiting for that literal 10-year mark, and
10 years on one day.
Surprise! Wii U came out in 2012 or whenever it was, and now they're like, all right, we're done. Pull the plug.
So you mentioned Big M in this case for Microsoft, and
yes,
Microsoft Gaming the Game Pass.
Yes.
Are we going to see in the war of the next console war, right?
Yeah.
Is this going to set the stage for the Steam Deck to surpass a Nintendo product, right? Is this what we're looking at here? Is this, yeah, you guys like how I set this up? I'm liking how I set this up.
So Valve, right? Valve, they have a policy. I think it's even in their terms of agreement that when you purchase a Steam game, it's supposed to be good through all future generations that Steam is compatible for. Steam has a policy where they don't want, it's only playable on this version, but it's not playable on future versions. They are very important that when you buy a game on Steam, it's compatible with whatever it can run on. And even with
as long as they make money with it.
Yeah, and even Steam Deck is running. It does not run on Windows. You can install Windows on a Steam Deck if you want to, but it uses a Linux distribution, and this is going to be a great push for games to be compatible with Linux. Right? We tried to get Celatria compatible with Linux, but we just hit all these roadblocks, right?
Sure.
And apparently, it's compatible with the version of Linux that they're using. I guess. It uses a thing called, I think I want to say Proton. It's either Proton or Photon, but I'm going to take the gamble and say Proton. But Proton is this compatibility layer where it turns the function calls from Windows into things that Linux can understand. and so they were able to make like Valve either bought out that or they invested in it or whatever they did. But this is a big thing on the Steam Deck. So they want as many games running on that thing as possible. They want this to be a PC that you can take on the go, and play games, right?
Mm.
And I think I hope it'll be I hope it's not another Ouya, because I was a really big supporter of the Ouya.
Oh yeah, you were. I remember the Ouya.
But the person, they just sold it off to Razer and jumped ship after their Kickstarter. So I hope it's not another Ouya, or it's not a hardware failure, or even Stadia, Google Stadia, right?
Okay, so like we remember the great console wars when we were growing up in the 90s, right? It was Sega and it's big Nintendo, right?
Yeah.
And
Nintendo,
I have this Nintendo and PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
And somehow Nintendo always came out the other side squeaky clean, making everyone else scramble for the trenches, right?
Sega does what Nintendo.
I remember distinctly walking into Best Buy and seeing a giant Sonic display. You can know where the video game section is because you see a giant Sonic and a giant Mario, right? Is this the moment where we see Nintendo fall out of grace? Like, or to cite devil's advocate, right? This is the Wii U. This is, people have had a chance to buy these games and these products for over 11 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Let it go. In the words of a top 5 Disney song, let it go.
Oh, I'm not letting it go. I'm not letting it go. I'm logging in. I charged up my 3DS yesterday. I charged up my Wii U, dusted it, the thick layer of dust and grime off of it so I could turn it on. And I'm going to buy like $400 to $500 worth of eShop.
All
games.
I heard was blah blah blah. I'm a vindictive petty bitch. That's all I heard.
Pretty much.
No.
And
that is
watch.
all
As soon
I
as
heard.
as soon as I do that, Nintendo's gonna have a direct and say all those games you loved are now on Nintendo Switch Online, and then I'm gonna be pissed again.
Well,
But
I mean,
I think-
Grover,
I
you're doing
think-
the right thing, I believe. You're totally doing what I would do if I had a 3DS. I do have a Wii U, so I might go into.
Wait, you don't
buying
have a
some of the titles
3DS?
that are there. I don't have a 3DS. I've been
Like-
planning
like,
on buying one for a while.
You've never
It's
had
been
like
11 years.
you've never had one.
No, I always borrowed like I borrowed Lucia's DS for like almost a year, and I was just playing Fire Emblem. I'm like, this thing is amazing. I should get one too. And then I never did.
No, you're running out of time, my friend. Did you ever return her DS?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Before
I
the
left.
Washington move.
Hey, yeah, you just took it with you.
Mhm.
Hey, Lucia, shouts out to you if you're listening. Thank you for all your awesome graphics.
Thank you for
Awesome.
introducing Jabari to 11-year-old technology.
Hey, someone had to do it, and me and Grover aren't good enough friends.
I
We
had
don't
a
remember his
DS.
birthday.
I have like 3 DSs and a 3DS.
Yeah, we got a great story about one of those named Doc.
I loaned my old 3DS to my friend Neil, and he had my original 3DS for, I think, no, he still has it. And then I got a 3DS XL, and then that was too big. It couldn't fit in my pockets. So I went and got a 2DS, and that's what I'm currently using.
A 2D.
So-
A 2DS.
A 2DS.
A 2DS.
So
the
so
3D hurts
Jabari-
my head, man. It hurts my eyes.
yeah, the 3D's a little intense.
Yeah.
Jabari, so is this in your opinion, from just that cold calculating by the numbers, right? Just
10
take
years.
all the-
10 years have passed. Cut off support.
10 do you think this is a sign of things to come? Like, is this going to be a slow cut off? You know, we're cutting it off where it comes from, right? We're gonna go forward in this direction, get in loser. We're gonna make some games. Is this a sign of things to come?
I still don't understand the question. Is it like is cutting off like old systems and old networks going to continue happening? Is that
Yes,
the question?
that exactly.
I believe so, but I mean, it's gonna happen less and less. As because I mean, the fans are very advocate about their games. So people like Grover and stuff like that, if they complain enough, they could convince Nintendo to change their mind and include those legacy titles onto their Nintendo Switch. Um, as we talked about last episode with Sonic the Hedgehog, you see the power of fans and how they change Sonic the Hedgehog and how the appearance of that um, looked in those movies, and it benefited them in the long run. And it let them have two more sequels of the game, have enough money for two more sequels of that movie. So this could be like if enough people are complaining about it, and it's been blowing up for the last week or so, week or two.
Couple weeks, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a couple weeks, so it's a big how do you say dystopia right now, and they could win with Nintendo convincing them to bring back those titles. I remember doing a project in college a couple years ago about the next moves that Nintendo will move towards, and this we predicted that they're going to release Nintendo Entertainment System games, NES games, and Nintendo 64s. But we imagine that they're only going to release the top games of those consoles, like the top 50 or so. And that's basically what's been happening. So I'm kind of happy that our predictions were correct. But this is just going to continue going on, and if Nintendo decides, they're not going to budge against what other individuals or what the fans are complaining about. They're just going to continue shutting down their old stores and such going on. So when they announced the new Nintendo Wii 2 or whatever, that after a couple of years or several years, that the Switch is going to be invalid. They're going to shut down their stores at some point about that and stop selling games on there, just as we've seen what they're doing right now.
But to me,
it's going to accept a lot of people.
Why don't they just combine it, right? When you had the Nintendo Wii, right? You had a completely different system of doing things. You bought things with Wii points, right? And you had your own like ecosystem of this thing, right? It wasn't even hosted by Nintendo. It was hosted by a third party company, right? And when they switched over to the eShop, it was hosted by Nintendo. It was a consistent store between the Wii U and the 3DS. It used a completely new system of points that we still use today. And when they had the Nintendo Switch, you still use the eShop cards for the Wii U on the Switch, right? To me, like this could be all one store that just carries over from one generation to the next, right? When you have Xbox store, you could buy 360 titles on there. You could buy Xbox One titles on there. You can buy Xbox Series X titles on there, right? When you buy something for Steam, you buy it for your computer. You buy it for any computer that it's on, right? And you buy it for the Steam Deck, all through that one Steam store. Why does Nintendo have to have a different store every generation? Why can't you just have I'm hoping that whatever the successor to the Switch is going to be backwards compatible with the Switch. It should be, given how many titles the Switch has, right? And it doesn't use huge physical media like the Wii U did. It doesn't have that hardware baggage that the Wii U had, right? So it should be backwards compatible. What's to stop them? Why can't you just have a store that just says, these titles are available on Switch and Switch 2, and these titles are Switch 2 only, right? The PS4 and the PS5 have the similar thing, right? I can log on to my PS5 right now and still buy PS4 titles to download and play on my PS5, right? There doesn't have to be a PS4 store and a PS5 store, right? To me, I think it's just poor design to have to just ditch your previous store every time you come out with a new console, especially when they've done this once before. They should have learned when they switched over to the 3DS and the Wii U that they could reuse the store every time going forward. It's not like that the Switch can't play a Wii U. You know, the only thing that the Switch can't do is it can't play a Wii U disc, but it can play Wii U games.
Mm-hmm.
So are you ready to hear my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory?
Yeah, I was about to make a counter with that.
All right. So what if Nintendo knows there's going to be a fan revolt? Mm-hmm. People just like Grover who are going to flood these marketplaces and spend all the money. Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
All of it. Right. You know, how much is it going to cost to get back China? Right. All of it. Right. All the tea. Right. I think I'm going to, again, what Jabari said, it's a calculated business decision.
Yeah.
The money they are going to make from all of these purchases, all these sales.
The FOMO.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some nerds in the back room. I know who you are, nerds
Paul,
in the
I'm
back
right
room.
Here. I'm in this podcast. You just talk to me directly.
No, not you. I'm talking about my co-host.
No, I'm literally in a dark room somewhere in Las Vegas. The lights are not on.
The self-burn, that's a rare one.
I have a torn t-shirt on. It's terrible. Terrible.
No, but the fact that Mike, I have a compatriot somewhere out there. There is this backroom intern who's doing all the books and accounting, and he gave his handler, like, here's how we make money, and he's like, brilliant, sold.
Yeah.
And then he goes back to his sweatshop where the nerds belong. That's kind of what it is. Because we know the devs are the rock stars of the video game development world.
Yeah. Shouts out to you.
You'll never shout out to the real devs, right? So at the end of the day, it's the bottom line. We're gonna make money. This is how we're gonna do it.
Whether you like it or not.
Games are going to be purchased that I'm sure no one's bothered browsing over the course of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It's like the suits from Men's Warehouse. I guarantee you're going to play those games. And it's just amazing.
Except they don't like the way they look.
Well, I mean, the mirrors don't like how you look either, but
Yeah, I know. There's so many cracks in that thing.
At one point, I think, Grover, you covered your mirror because you didn't like looking into it.
No, it's not that I don't like looking into it. It's that I scare myself when I look into it.
It's even worse.
Jabari, you were there in San Francisco GDC. I woke you and Chris Nuno up when I looked in the mirror and screamed.
That makes me sad. Like, low key, makes me sad.
No,
that's my tinfoil hat.
The game developers in the adjacent hotel room were not pleased.
They
were not
They knocked
sad.
on the door.
They were angry.
They knocked on the door.
Well, I screamed. No, I screamed that loudly though. I was.
I screamed pretty loud. We're just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So, Jabari, what was your counterpoint before I was playing tinfoil hat guy?
Oh, let's see. So, to me, when I'm looking at the whole thing, like, why is Nintendo not being like backwards compatible, and such, and like why are they not bringing games from older systems to the Nintendo Switch? And to me, it just comes all down to money. And let's just think about like when PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 comes out, compared to like Nintendo consoles that come out. Like how much was the PS 4 when it first came out? Do you guys remember?
400 something. Oh, it was 500.
The PS4?
Yeah,
PS4, PS3
350.
even.
It was $499, I think.
$499, 500, right? I remember PS3 went up to around 600. All right. Mm-hmm. And what was the price for like Nintendo console, like the Wii U?
Always in the 200 range.
Always
250.
200 or at most 300, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So like just the difference in the prices of that, and I believe the price for like PlayStation is because they're going all the way back. They're including all this backward compatibility components to their system and such. Like they're spending a lot more money onto their console to do all these different things. Nintendo has been known to be innovative, but also be really I don't want to say cheap, but they frugal about their systems and their games and how they develop as well. So
It's
I
very
think
calculated.
yeah, very calculated about what they're doing. So I feel like Nintendo is not continuing on with making that backwards compatibility because of cost of it. They've done the research on how likely people are to continue looking back at those legacy games and trying to bring it back to their Switch and such and make that available. And they calculated that it's not going to make enough money to actually be worth adding that backwards compatibility to their system. And that's basically it. Like that's what I feel like is stopping them from doing that. If I'm not sure how much time it takes to put in this like backwards compatible system into like their Switch and such, and I see them do it later on if they feel like they can make a profit off of it. But I feel like the cost of it is just too much right now, so we might see them port over older legacy titles, but it's going to be the most popular ones. Like I'm looking at the website right now, or nintendolife.com right now, and I'm looking at the games that they came out with the Nintendo 64 for that $49.99 system. And right now the games that are released are all popular games from the Nintendo 64 era. Mm-hmm. So they're going to continue doing that. They're going to continue.
It's just good business. It's just good business.
They know what is going to sell. And if anything, like they're not. I remember back in one of my projects with college was the same thing about the Nintendo 64. We talked about different games that they release. I fought against this other person saying, hey, they're only going to release like the top so-and-so 20, 30 games of Nintendo or whatever system of the console that's coming out. And the other person was arguing, oh no, they should release all of the Nintendo games onto it. I'm like, number one, cost effectively, like they can't do that. They don't have the time for that. They don't have the money for that. And a lot of people are not going to buy certain titles. So they're just going to focus on those popular titles. So what's going to happen, I believe, is actually what they've been doing now is that the most popular NES games, Super Nintendo games, Nintendo 64 games, that's what they're going to focus on releasing onto the Switch. And it's going to continue. That cycle is going to continue on. So if you, like for the Wii U, Grover, like I know you're going to go out and actually for the 3DS as well, and you're going to buy out those titles that you like, those legacy titles. But if they are of a certain popularity, I'm pretty sure that there's probably an 80 or 90% chance that that's going to end up in whatever next system that Nintendo creates. So I would kind of hold back. But if you find like a title that, was like a cult favorite or didn't really make the press, then those are the titles that you're going to want to purchase right away.
Yep. And if you guys join our Whimindie Discord on the Game Rex channel, I did post a link to where it shows like some of the really rare games that are unlikely to come to the Switch. So take a look at that if you're interested. And then it also has all the deadlines and all that stuff, and we talk about it a little bit more detail there. So discord.gg/Whimindie. Make sure you join that. I do have a rebuttal to you, Jabari, on about the PlayStation and backwards compatibility. So it's not like
hit me. Let's do this.
So
I'm loving this.
So about the PS5, it's not so much that they tried to get a PS4 inside a PS5. It doesn't work like that. But the PS4 and the PS5 have what's called an x86 architecture, which is the same kind of architecture that a modern gaming Windows PC would have. So pretty much a PS5 is not so much a PS4 and a PS5. It's mainly a PS4 with better with better inside specs that can run better games. PS3 is different. The reason why PS4 is not backwards compatible with PS3 is PS3 uses what's called a PowerPC architecture, and it's like comparing a Windows PC and a Mac. It's just completely different insides, and it is the way that the PS3 is built. It is extremely difficult to also emulate. That's why PS4, rather than trying to make it backwards compatible, that's why that was pretty much the remaster generation. That's why you see a lot of like The Last of Us and stuff completely rebuilt on the PS4 architecture, because it just can't run PS3. Hell, it would be even difficult for a PS5 to emulate a PS3. It's just it is just such in its own little world there that it's really hard to run. But I think Sony has learned, and I personally believe unless a better architecture comes along to where it's not worth it, kind of like what you guys were talking about with Nintendo, we're going to continue seeing an x86 architecture for all future PlayStations. They did the same thing with Xbox, but the thing here is with Microsoft, I think they put, I don't know exactly what they did, but they have some kind of sensor in the Xbox Series X and S to where if you put something like an Xbox 360 disc in there, which has a different architecture, it can read the disc and then download a friendly version that's compatible with the x86 architecture. And that's how it can run. That's how it's quote unquote backwards compatible. But I'm not sure. I don't know enough about it to know if it's emulating it at Xbox 360 or if they just rebuilt the whole game on the Xbox Series X and S. But, Microsoft has the money to do all that. And you guys kind of alluded to it with Nintendo. It's like, will Nintendo waste their money doing this? Microsoft has the funds to do that. Whereas Sony, they just, they decided to just remaster their games and adjust their games for a PS4 version instead. One more thing on this topic, there's the topic about PS4 to PS5 upgrades. Why do they have that, right? PS5, it has better, RAM and better graphics cards and whatnot. So, they'll probably polish the textures and stuff and just have that as a downloadable update, right? Something that the PS4 just can't run because of how old it is, not necessarily because it's a different architecture. So, didn't mean to get super technical on this, but I just consider the PS5 more like a stronger PS4 and the Xbox Series X and S to be a stronger Xbox One. Their internals are pretty similar, other than just more powerful versions of the older hardware.
Real quick before I let Jabari respond to that, I'm loving this dynamic we got going on, where Jabari's coming from the cold, calculating what's good for marketing. Grover's coming with this gamer rage, but backed up by the knowledge of how this technology works, and having a basis in this. And I come in like la 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 la. This is a conspiracy theory, which is
this is what they said on Reddit,
and just because I feel like I'm coming from a point of I've been watching stock market stuff and just the tomfoolery going on, and I'm like, I can see these kind of power plays. It smells off, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just loving how I'm coming up la 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 la. This is crazy, and you're both looking at me like, what the hell? Paul? Are you okay? Are you tired? Have you not slept? Kind of thing, right? And I actually texted Jabari earlier this week. It's kind of funny. And I asked Jabari, did you ask to double the marketing budget? And Jabari's like, that's never happened, Paul. I think you're sleep deprived. And
Our
I'm
marketing
like,
budget's already in the
Jabari.
negative. No, it's not.
Yeah, and Jabari's like, I think you need some sleep, Paul. And I'm like, you're probably right. Good night, Jabari. So I
said 3:14 in the morning.
No, it was like 5 p.m. or something like that. So it was like middle of the day.
You must have had a rough day that day.
I've had
it was. Yeah, I could actually check back. I think it was like at 9 or 10 because I was going to the movies at that time.
Oh yeah, Paul goes to sleep when the sun sets, so you have to keep that in mind.
With the chickens.
Yeah. Sorry.
So Jabari, I'm gonna let you give your last rebuttal on this before I ask kind of like our closing topic of this episode.
Okay. Yeah, you text me that at 8:41 p.m.
But that's the rebuttal. This whole PS4, PS5. Yeah. Forget what he said. You sent me that message at 8:00. And that's that.
Case closed. The prosecution rests.
No,
good night.
Yeah, regarding like the PlayStation and stuff being back compatible, I'm not even actually 100% sure how backwards compatible PS5 is. Does it go all the way back to PS1?
No, just PS4 and
PS4,
which is weird.
It sounds like because of the tech, like you're explaining. So I feel like you actually made my argument like stronger because the technology in it is so different. So in order to incorporate that into the new console, it's just going to increase the cost of it. So for Nintendo, being more of the more frugal console, to incorporate something that adapts older consoles technology into the system is going to be more costly for it. Therefore, Nintendo is not going to include that into their new system.
So here's
Jabari just Uno reverse this shit. Did Jabari just Uno reverse card this?
No. Here's my rebuttal to that. Right? there's like Castlevania collections. You have the Night Dive Studio collections. Right? They're doing Turok, which is an N64 game. Right? They outright
remember these are popular games that they're rebooting.
Okay, even not popular games. They throw the whole emulator in the digital download. When you buy like Castlevania collection, you're downloading essentially a Super Nintendo or a NES emulator, and then that boots up, and then it boots up the game in that, and then they have a what's called a wrapper, and the wrapper is like the neat little graphics, so that like the neat little borders around it, right, to make it look like it's playing on the Switch, but it's just booting up a Shantae by Way Forward, right? They just released the Game Boy Color games on the Switch, right? Yeah. They hired one guy, and he has a YouTube. I don't remember the name of the guy. If you're watching, I apologize, but he has a YouTube video, and he goes into in depth. I'll find it by the end of this episode, but he goes in depth on how he remastered Shantae, how he hacked into the original cartridge and emulated it and everything. And they just package it all up and then ship it on the Switch, with Way Forward's blessing, right? It's amazing, right? All of that can fit for a PS3, that's gigabytes of data, right? But for a Super Nintendo game or a NES game or even N64 game, you're dealing with like 50 to 64 megabytes at most, right? It is not a lot of data, and that's including the emulator. Yeah, it is not a lot of data, and the Switch is more than capable of running it.
So, Jabari, who wins? Who wins?
That's for you to decide. Jabari has this thing. That's for you to decide, Paul, or the viewer to decide. The viewer should decide.
So this is the question, right? If it comes down to another console war, which at the end of the day, I think we as gamers win when there is healthy competition, healthy technology boost. It's like the definition of capitalism, right? Not to get on that high horse, but
Steam is even releasing Portal on Switch. I mean, and that they're releasing a competing console in like Oh no, they've already released it by the point this episode is released, right? Because it's March 1st. They've already released the Steam Deck by this point. So, and they're releasing Portal on the Switch. So, take that for what you want.
I think Portal, I mean, I can rant for hours on Portal.
Yeah.
And how amazing of a game that is on its own without being part of the orange box when that was a thing. But if we had to pick a winner between Nintendo with their draconic shutdown of stores and just grifting players for all they're worth, Steam entering the portable console battle, or do we go with Sony, who, again, to repeat, just bought Bungie to compete with Microsoft? So like, are we gonna have like two offshoots where like it's gonna be back to Microsoft and Sony battling it out while like Valve enters and they become the big giant whale in the room, like boom, right, and just knocks everyone off with its giant hardware.
You know who the winner's gonna be?
Who is not your pocketbook?
No, the person who's gonna have to deal with approving and rejecting these mergers when they all decide to buy each other out.
Just one
all the governments and be like, nope, we're gonna bust you, and we're gonna bust you, and we're gonna bust you, and Nintendo stop doing that, and yeah.
So then the question becomes
Teddy Roosevelt, the ghost of Teddy Roosevelt is the winner.
Let's go
with all the trust busting.
So trust busting, right? At what point is it just our government just too slow? Is it going to be like people like Ocasio-Cortez and her cohort that are coming in, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not politics wise, but age wise. Us 30-somethings.
Yeah.
Because I would pay. I mean, I got a front row seat to see you two debate, and you two are like some of the biggest Nintendo fanboys. And for you guys to go head to head and talk about how you feel about all this, is that a mouse wheel I'm hearing going off in the background?
Oh, sorry, that's my mouse wheel.
That is
exactly.
That is intense. Like what?
Grind.
This microphone is too powerful, man.
Grind.
This microphone's just too powerful. I'm only at 50% of my what
Dear.
this.
No wonder you let me borrow this old microphone.
No, that one works great too.
So in conclusion to that topic, the gamer wins. Let's move on. So
okay. All right, Mr. Dismissive. All right. Okay.
The gamer wins, Nintendo wins, PlayStation wins.
We need to go to the second. We need to go to the second topic of this podcast. Let's just move on.
My opinion is that an environment that fosters healthy competition is 100% conducive to the person purchasing the products.
Okay.
Oh
all right.
You told me hey.
Ew,
that
sounded gross when you said it.
This is Mr. Fun we're talking to. He makes everything boring. He happened to make Nintendo boring.
See, you guys were bitching about me being too dismissive, and then when I say my thoughts, you guys are like gross. Like the hell, Paul.
Stop being so logical.
What do gamers want? Not that apparently.
Now I want to move on.
So with this innovation and what Grover was talking about, all this tech, right?
Yeah.
You're essentially downloading this emulator to play these games, and you're essentially doing this and that. We are coming into beyond VR and all these other pieces of hardware. The Oculus is becoming for like even more affordable.
No, it's the Oculus by Meta.
That reptilian does not deserve me to say his name of his company correctly.
His name is Mark Zuckerberg. And he will respond to you virtually using an avatar in a virtual workspace owned by Meta.
That reptilian can go you know where and do what with it. Okay, long
Okay.
walk, short period.
All right, you're not going to be hired by Meta. I can see that.
I'm okay with that. You know what? I will short their stock and I will make money off of it, and I'm gonna love every second. 200 billion gone in one day. I love it. Moving on. So are these pieces of hardware like you can use your freaking smartphone if you have a Samsung, right?
Yeah.
As a access point, right? So with this hardware getting more inexpensive per se, once we get over the chip shortage, that is for sure, right? If that's even gonna ever happen, are we gonna make it like diamonds, right?
Okay. I'm not gonna rant on that for 20 minutes. Go ahead.
No, I mean, fair enough. So with those trends, guys, right? Where do you think gaming goes from here, right? What's the next, like, in your wildest dreams, where do you hope gaming goes? And while I give you guys enough load time for that, right?
Sure.
I kind of want games, and I understand the whole, like, why Nike shoes cost money, right? You're paying for all the endorsements and all the, right? The same thing with video games. I understand this studio has to make money. I understand they got to pay people.
Yeah.
But what I want is for a digital download game to cost less than the physical disc. That's my pipe dream. I'm on the ganja, whatever you want to call it.
No, that's already happening.
No, but I've seen a lot of PS5 games. Mm-hmm. Digital download costs the same as the physical disc.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I see what you mean, Yum.
Yeah. Okay. So Jabari, you want to handle this first, or you want me to do it?
You go for it.
All right. So I'm a big limited run collector, right? Mm-hmm. And Paul and Jabari, you've both seen my stack of limited run games that is in my house. Yes, I haven't even opened them, right? I have big Shantae boxes, right? Shantae digitally is like $10. I went out and paid $60 for a physical copy of Shantae, right? Same and I bought all the Blaster Master Zeros for $39.99 each. They regularly go for $10 to $15 digitally, right? The only way I see what you're talking about, Paul, is if it's done by AAA, mm-hmm. Or the big your big publishers, right? Your Square Enixes, your Sony, your Nintendo, right? Nintendo rarely, first party Nintendo, they rarely discount their games, right? But when they do, it's like, okay, digital, it's $39.99, right? As opposed to $59.99. But I just for indie games, right? Like limited run or special reserve games, shout out to those companies. They are making bank on physical copies because people are, especially right now when people are not sure about how our digital purchases are going to look in future generations, right? We don't have a standard yet. And so people like me, I'll if I see a physical copy of a game, I will buy that first. I will only buy digital if it is extremely hard for me to get a physical copy, right? So I if it means I pay $10 or $15 or $20 more for a physical copy, I will get it. And that way I have a copy of it for as long as I'm living, or until it just the cartridge dies out, right? Because they slowly decay, right? But in my experience with the types of games I've played, the digital and physical prices were rarely the same unless it was a big AAA title.
All right,
and that's exactly what I've been noticing a lot too. Yeah, you could buy a cheaper digital version nowadays for certain games. But yeah, those AAA games out there, those are going to be the same price as the physical ones. What I've been seeing, I think we all been seeing a lot more and more, just as Grover mentioned, is those collective editions of physical games and such. And now, if you buy a physical game, usually you can get different collectibles with them. It could be like a coin or such,
or cards or something.
Yeah, something like that. And that's how they're able to actually increase the price of those physical CDs that they have. So like you'll see a lot like, okay, here's Shantae for we're selling it for $39.99 digitally, but you can buy this collective version for $60 or $70 or so. Like I think I bought my Shantae stuff for like $100. The Siren one, the most recent one that came out
with 7 Sirens.
Yeah, and that's where things seems to be going. I mean, I hate to say this, but like we are now the older generation. We are becoming the boomers, and like younger individuals, Generation Z and such and below, they're okay with digital products. They're okay with buying these things, and they feel satisfied with digital products. Us, on the other hand, we're like, we need physical. This is what we need, and we're actually paying for it. And companies know this, and I know this too, because this is what I'm trying to do with Whimindie as well. I'm trying to make physical versions of our stuff and collectibles and such, so we can upsell them more than what we usually will sell them for digitally. Like for example, Spellbearers is only going to be sold for $20, but there's going to be a collectible version of it, a physical version of it, that's going to be selling for $50 or $60. And that's just how the game is right now, until that bridge between our generation and the younger generation is connecting even more, or more the later generation that comes into play. They're going to be more digital. Since 2000, what was it? When did I do this research? 2019. I think they said that 50 or 60% of video games now are all sold digitally. So it's been 3 years since that, and they were saying that it was rapidly increasing to more digital on the side of digital. So like now it could be like 70 or 80% of individuals who buy games are buying it digitally. So it's crazy, and this is just how we're going to be doing it for a while.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Okay, millennial.
Or for better or for worse. So Grover, what are the trends you want to see going forward?
So I have no idea how long we're going to be riding this kind of physical wave, right? Because the Steam Deck is not going to have a cartridge slot, right? It's going to be,
not at all.
The Steam Deck doesn't have a cartridge slot. I think the only slot that it has is a micro SD card, right? And that'll store all your storage for your digital purchases, right? And heck, I have a terabyte micro SD card in my Switch, right? To hold all the store, because I don't want to lose all that stuff, right? And I don't trust not being able to re-download it in the future. In the future, right? So I don't know how long this physical. I think the world of physical games is going to be replaced by us buying external hard drives or external SD cards that just have a lot of data, and that will hold our purchases for us. It'll probably, I don't know how, somebody listening to this podcast 20 years from now is like, they had physical games back then. We actually inserted in a Blu-ray disc, and then they're using some format we either never heard of right now, or we don't know about right now, or they're just purchasing it digitally, and it just goes on there.
It'll probably be like Jabari's grandkids.
It'll go on their
Listen to
100.
this, like,
My
oh,
grandkids.
Grandpa Jabari,
Yeah.
we kind of put you back in the home. This is too much.
When they
And
have
you're like, no, we had physical discs that went in the box, and they're like, oh, Grandpa,
but I
it's
mean,
time to go back.
But I mean, like,
you've been out too long.
Well, 20 years from now, they'll probably have a 500 petabyte PS7, right? You know, and they're like, wow, that, you know, this one game is 3 terabytes. You know, that's it. You know, so. And then I'll be like, I remember when my computer only had 4 terabytes of space.
Oh, Grandpa, you've been out of the home too
You're
long.
on the crack again.
Crack's legal.
Go back to sleep, Grandpa Paul. Anyway.
Oh,
how much millibytes did the floppy disk hold? Was it 5 or 15?
Hold on. I got you. How much space did floppy disk hold?
Cut the loading time.
1.4 megabytes.
Whoa!
That's like one voice.
Pokemon games on there.
Yeah, that is
one Pokemon.
That's half of a voice line of Celatria.
Oh man, no! Where's my fucking cane? Oh man, I'm kind of crying right now in sadness. Oh man, I have gray hairs. Sorry,
I've had gray hairs. I've had gray hairs, sir.
They keep multiply. I pluck out 1 and then 5 more grow. I'm only 28.
Hey, when you turn 30, we'll celebrate you. But part of my gift on your card is gonna say the first elbow crack is on me, and it's only gonna be a matter of time. I had a co-host on my other podcast. I said that to him when he turned 30, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna take my time cashing that in. And not even like 3 days later, he's like, hey Paul, you're an ass. And I said, welcome to 30.
Before we wrap down the episode, I promised I was going to get the name of the person who ported the emulated Shantae from Game Boy to the Switch, and I found that YouTube. It's Modern Vintage Gamer. So he has if you look him up, Modern Vintage Gamer on YouTube, he has a deep dive into how he emulates Game Boy games and how he was able to get the Game Boy Advance version of it on there, and he does a 13-minute deep dive on it, and so definitely look him up if you're interested on how emulation works on the Switch and how it's technically possible. So yeah.
And I know Nintendo was against like emulation. Like they used to send cease and desist letters left to right. I remember using
they still do.
Yeah. So
shouldn't say.
So
what
Steven
used to do in the past.
Stephen Kick, the CEO of Night Dive, right? He just publicly sent out a tweet saying that he tried to contact Nintendo to help them port their, to have Night Dive help them port their Nintendo consoles, but every time they had talks, I guess Nintendo got shy about other third-party companies porting their stuff. So
like they usually do.
Yeah. So it's not that there haven't been people trying, but they have to want to.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it took them
it's like therapy.
A long time to go mobile, like mobile games for them.
Yeah.
And the first couple ones were a huge success. Despite them, like when did Pokemon Go come out or Mario Run?
Yeah, those
Mario Run was
before times.
2016.
Yeah,
2017.
It was right. Yeah, it was in the before times for sure.
And like mobile games took over in 2010. I remember. Yeah, I think actually there's 50% of gaming right now is all mobile games.
Dear God,
it's crazy, and Nintendo took 6-7 years to actually get on board with that. So this is usual.
So
Nintendo.
Nintendo is Mother Russia, slow to get going, but once it gets in there, it's all up in the business.
But me, the old cranky millennial that I am, I prefer my games with buttons, physical buttons that you push on, D-pads that you can feel, and analog sticks that you can move. I tried to play and emulate it. My friend showed me an emulated game I was playing on his phone. He's like, "Look, I have Pokemon Red on my phone," and I was like, "But But it's got it's got this touchpad, D-pad, and this like invisible A button. I couldn't do it.
Blasphemy.
Yes. And I was like, rabble, old millennial stuff.
Freaking Jabari's grandkids are like, "Oh, great Uncle Grover,
What are you doing up in first? How did you make it up to Seattle? What the hell are you doing up here?"
And then Grover's like, "What I tell you, short man." Jaw falls off.
That I-5 was a long drive, and then the wheel falls off my car, and my jaw falls off, and my teeth fall out.
And then Grover just grows a new one because it's the year 2080.
Yeah, exactly.
He just grows a new jaw.
My robot wife will be helping me up. It'll be great.
Thank you, Bezos.
No, thank you, Zuckerberg.
Metatech.
My meta robot wife.
If that's the future, I want to be long dead before that happens. And listener, I hope you've been quite entertained and you have no inclination to feel the way I do about Meta.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they're long dead. I'm pretty sure they're just long dead. But even when you're dead, you can still, give us a 5 out of 5, right?
Follow us on our social media. Follow on at Whimindie, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Go ahead and join our Discord.
Discord.gg/Whimindie.
I'm going to memorize that one of these days, I promise.
And then wishlist, right? You got wishlist Spellbearers and Celatria on Steam. That's what funds this podcast. And please, we need the money. Please.
We don't do
as of this, we don't do Patreon or anything. So wishlisting is the best way to support us.
So if you want to hear more of this, tune in next week. We'll be recording another episode, and
on March 8th, right? Yeah. March 8th.
Whenever the next episode is recorded, wherever podcast you listen to, wherever you listen to podcasts. That's how I'm going to say it.
Because we record this live
every day, Saturday night. That's how we do. That's how.
No, it's Tuesday. We release this on Tuesday, Paul. Come on.
But we don't release the recording on Tuesday, sir.
When you release something live, you record it and you put it out right then and there on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific. That's when we do it.
This is why Jabari's grandkids are gonna put Uncle Grover in the home. This is how it happens. It's proof.
It's back in the home. This is when I wandered away from the home and ended up in Seattle for some reason.
It's like the game we had to cancel in the studio. It's your escaping retirement home. Go, Grandpa.
Oregon was too racist for me. I had to leave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jabari's we got a runner. And,
take him out back to see the rabbits.
Oh no! Dark mice of men.
All right, listeners.
Just like the Wii U and the 3DS, it's been Grover.
Oh, stop it, guys! It hurts.
And that's Jabari. I think we've lost him. You've been great, listener. Y'all keep it nerdy. Till next time.
Rest in peace, Nintendo. See you next time.